Okay, so we are getting near the end of what we want to do with our hamburger menu in my bookstore. Um, but the last thing I'd like to do is I'd like to do something with these categories. I don't want the categories showing all the time. And I could do a couple of different things. I could have them open up on click, but I kind of like the fact that this categories button goes to the default category page with its classics when I click it. Um, so I'd prefer if this categories menu opened up when I just hovered over the categories. So I don't know, maybe I can try to do a hover drop down for the categories portion of the menu. Let's give that a try and see what happens. So now I've got these classes that I had not used before. I'm sorry, for the sub menus. So I got sub menu containers. I got sub menu button. Okay, and let me see if I can remember quickly how to do a category menu. So the sub menu button. Well, the sub menu, I know that the sub menu container when I hover over that, I want the sub menu panel to display. Okay, and so if I'm going to do that, I have to make the submenu panel display none here. And I'm going to save that, and it disappears. And let's see if yeah, it does. Okay, so it jumps, but that's fantastic. It appears. So what do I want to do here? It would be nice if it didn't, and I can go down here. I mean, yeah, when I go past there, that's a problem, but we'll try to fix that later. Right now, I want to focus on trying to make that transition out. Okay, so I want it to, I want that to smoothly roll down, okay, when I hover over categories. So that's going to be a property of the submenu panel, but I need something to transition over. Okay. And it took me a while to play around with this, but I found, I don't know if it was on Stack Overflow or something like that. Somebody suggested to transition not over height. Let's see what happens when I transition over height. Okay, so if I made the panel 0, okay, and forget about the display, the height is 0, and I can see there's some overlapping going on there. And then instead of display block, I'm just going to assume that's going to be the default. And I want to change the height to, well, that's the problem. What do I want to change the height to? I mean, do I want to change the height to 10 EM? I don't know. Let's see what happens when I do that. Okay, I just saved that. Okay, and if I hover over that, I get classics, and I get, wow, that's not what I want. And then I get fantasy down there. That is weird. How is that happening? 10 EM. It seems like it's showing me classics, and then it's doing 10 EM and showing me fantasy. I'm not real sure why it's doing that. But because these submenu items are supposed to have a hardcore padding of 0.5 EM, so you would think it would show these. Okay, well, in any case, it looks like that's a problem, and I think somewhere on, and actually let's do the transition, because that just flips. Okay, let's do the transition first and see if that works at all. So I'm going to do transition. And instead of doing 3 types of transition, which are, transition duration, transition property, and transition timing function. So I'm just going to go ahead and do them all here. This is kind of like border. You can just do them all at once. So I'm going to say transition over height. Okay. Give me 400 milliseconds, and I want to ease in and out. Okay. So let's see what happens there when I hover. And it is working. That transition is working, but it's still doing some weird things. So anyway, one of the things that I saw was a recommendation of max height to transition over, because height is an exact number, and you don't always know the exact number. But max height, you can kind of, a maximum number that you want. Like 10 EM should be sufficient to get all of the subcategories into. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, and even doing that just changed things, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and hover over that now. But I need to transition over max height instead of height. All right. Let's try that again. Okay, wow, that's looking great. And I think that you'll find, let's test this theory out. If I change this to 12, I think it's going to go over the same thing, because that's just a maximum height. It's probably going to try to fit stuff. Yeah, it's the same thing, because it is still trying to fit the elements inside of it. So that's the nice thing about max height. You can make that pretty big. You probably don't want to make it too big, but you have a little flexibility when you're using max height. That's really cool. I love that. And then I can transition. So, okay, there's 2 problems here. The first is the most obvious and glaring. When I collapse this, the categories are essentially, when I'm saying the max height is 0, what's happening is the categories are restricted by that max height. And remember that HTML wants you to see as many things as you can possibly see. It assumes that if you put them in the HTML, people want to see them. So in order to hide that, we don't have to do an overflow X or Y on the body anymore, because this isn't about the body. Okay, the body's boundaries are on the edge of the browser. Okay, but actually what's being overflowed here is the box that surrounds these categories. Okay, we don't want them to overflow out of that box. So that's the panel. All right, so for that, we simply do a overflow y. Whoops. Yeah, overflow y, and we say that that is going to be hidden. And look at that, they just disappear. Isn't that beautiful? Because they were overflowing at the bottom of that thing. And now when we hover, oh, gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so the only thing that is irritating about this, and it's kind of hard to see until you mess with this a little bit. Suppose I want to search for something in the hamburger menu. Okay, so the hamburger menu's closed. I open it up. I go down to the search function. Whoop, my categories open up. Well, that's fine. Okay, I can just go down to search like that. But as soon as I scroll off of there, then the menu closes up, and I can no longer, my mouse is no longer on the search button. And that's probably a deal breaker there. Okay? There's just no way to get to that search button. So that's a problem. So I think what I would like to do here is, instead of just saying, look, I'd like these categories to appear anytime I'm hovering over the category container. Okay, that's what I have now. Anytime I'm hovering over the category container, the categories are there. When I stop hovering over the container, the categories are gone. I would actually like these categories. I still don't want to click this, all right? I would like these categories to appear when I hover over categories, and then I would like them to stay there until I hover over categories again. All right? And believe it or not, there's actually a way to do that. And you do that in a very similar way that we did it with the hamburger menu. We had a Boolean variable in our JavaScript, and then we clicked on the hamburger menu to make the panel appear and disappear. So instead of clicking on the category item to make the menu appear or disappear, I want to hover over it. All right? And there's a way to do that. Instead of saying @click, you just say @mouseover. All right? So let's go ahead and set that up. All right, the first thing we need to go to JavaScript. And we got a main menu open false. Let's do a submenu open false by default. And let's make a method for it. Toggle submenu. And again, this will be a submenu open. And I love how it adds this, not submenu open. Okay, fantastic. So it's basically just what we did with that main menu. Except now we want to make we got this click toggle main menu. That is on the main menu button. So look, this is our submenu button. Okay, so on our submenu button, we want, instead of click, we want mouse over. And we want to call that toggle. Surprised it isn't bringing this up by default. But okay, let's see what happens. Okay, @click, toggle submenu. Okay. Let me make sure that is called toggle submenu in camel case, toggle submenu. Okay, I'm just gonna assume that looks good. So I don't think this should work at this point. I mean, this menu opens, and I mean it's still a hover drop down, and it's still a hover drop down because of the CSS, right? So in the CSS we have this submenu panel, okay, and this should no longer be a submenu container hover submenu panel. This should have its own class now, just like, where's that main menu panel? Main menu open. So I want a submenu open class, and I want it to be I want to have a class binding. So here's that main menu open class. I'm going to copy that, and that's in the main menu panel, and I'm going to put the class binding there. And instead of saying main menu open, I'm going to say submenu open, and instead of main menu open here, I'm going to say submenu open, and I get an error. Okay, so let's see what I'm doing here. I'm missing of course it's giving me 2. All right, that looks good. Okay, I still don't have my submenu open class, so let's see what's going on here. It's still using the hover. Okay, it's still using the hover because of CSS. So now, instead of this, I'm just going to say submenu panel and then submenu open. Menu open. And hopefully, this is not toggling. All right. Never fear. Let's go to the Dev Tools. Let's go to View and see what's going on with these variables. Okay, I got a submenu open, which is false. Okay, and I'm hovering over categories, and it is not changing. Okay, submenu panel, submenu open. Let me make sure I got everything right. Display, yeah, that should all be right. Let me make sure. I was getting a little nervous because it wasn't recognizing that JavaScript property, but this is the JavaScript property. What about the methods? Toggle main menu, toggle submenu. I'm just going to copy that. And yeah, it's the same thing. Let's see, is mouse over the correct thing to use? Let me make sure that it is. Mouse over equals toggle submenu. Submenu button. Is that the right place? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I remember this. So, I think this is a problem when I mouse over this, and here there's nothing. I think this is a problem with the fact that I put this inside of a link. So when you put this inside of a link, you get a hover reaction. In any case, yeah, I think this is a link problem. And to fix this, I'm going to create an outer div. And let's see, this can still be the main menu item. Okay. But I think I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this div just wrap this router link. Yeah, sometimes weird things happen with router links. I'm hoping this works. Class equals, and I want this to be our submenu button. And not this. Okay. I don't want it to be confused about whether it's mousing over a link or mousing over a submenu item. Okay, no, I don't want it on the container. I'm sorry, I definitely want it on the button here. All right, let's see if that fixes my problem. I know it was something strange with that. And look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to call that a success. I'm not really sure how I figured out to put that div class in and do the mouse over on this wrapper div rather than do it on the router link. But I know I've always had issues with router links, and you know they're translated to anchors, but they're translated in a very specific way. So I'm just happy this seems to be fixed. And if I hover over this again, look at that. Hover and I leave and it sticks. Hover and I leave and it sticks like that. And now I can go to that search button no matter which way I do it. And look at that. Beautiful. Now, I mean, if I was continuing this, I mean, once the hamburger menu left, I'd probably, you can see that if the hamburger leaves now and it opens up, that variable, well, you can see it right here, that variable submenu open remains true. So this stays true. But I could probably fix that easily by just saying, going to my toggle function, toggle main menu, and doing something like if submenu open no, I would have to do something more complicated than that, but I could do some logic here that would ensure that whenever the main menu closes, the submenu closes as well. Okay. So actually, let me do this. I should be able to do this. If not main menu open, then submenu open equals false. Okay, so let's see how that works. Okay, and we can do that, and we can do that, and we can come back, and then we can close this. And why does this have to keep selecting that? So they're both true, okay, and if I, and they're both false now, and I just get the the main menu. Folks, I think I am going to call this a success. I hope you've enjoyed this. Well, it's not a little walkthrough. It turned out to be a quite lengthy walkthrough, but I hope you got some things out of this. That's it, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.